Welcome back to Chit Chats, everybody. My name is Antonio.
And I am Donovan, the subject of this chit chat. And let's have a chit chat.
Yes, indeed. Let us have a chit chat, indeed.
I am the main character of
You
this
are
chit
the main
chat.
character, yes. So welcome back to Chit Chats, everybody. Today is going to be a little bit different of an episode, than we typically do, for a number of reasons. First of all, this is actually the second episode that I'm not just hosting on YouTube, but hosting on Spotify. So that's exciting. So that means that we may very well have some new listeners or viewers of this episode that we don't typically have, potentially, you know. So if you're tuning in and this is one of your first episodes, welcome. This is Chit Chats.
This chit chats with me adjusting my headset.
Yes.
Get used to it, bitch.
No. But what was I gonna say? Yeah. No. So it's a special occasion for that reason. But also we have Donovan here, as you can see. Welcome, Donovan. Donovan, this is not your first episode of Chit Chats. You have been a frequent guest. But today, like I said, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Today, I'm going to be talking to Donovan about something that maybe some of you didn't know about him. Donovan, simply because we don't really bring it up all the time, at least in videos. But Donovan, and anyone watching, I don't know if I was about to say Donovan. I don't know if you're aware of this.
I had no idea.
Yeah. But Donovan is one of, at least for the viewers, Donovan is one of the few people that I know that is, someone who is prevalent in my life who has diabetes.
You know other diabetics?
I do. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say, Donovan.
I'm not the only one.
You are not the only one. Yeah. I said sorry because I thought you wanted that to be unique to you, but no, but you're not alone. You're not alone.
I'll kill them.
They will all be
I'm
eliminated.
gonna kill them.
You will be.
They will be
one.
eliminated.
But yeah. So yeah. And so today I just want we're gonna be having a little bit more of a grounded episode because normally we're very goofy and silly in these videos. And we like to make, crack some jokes. And I don't think this is necessarily going to be, as we've proven so far, this is not going to be a somber, just stone-faced episode of Chit Chats by any means. But it's going to be a little bit more serious than normal, just because it's going over a topic that's, can be a little bit more touchy for some people or serious for some people. But, we're here today, we're here today to shed some light on it, maybe, inform a few people, just talk about it because it's something that, I think is worthy of some discussion. And so Donovan, thank you for being here to do that with me.
No, I thank you for giving me the platform and the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm merely the vessel.
you are merely the vessel. Yes. I'm the main character.
You are the main, yes, as we've established, you are the main character of this video and just life in general. So this is just me presenting that to the public,
Sure thing.
But yeah, so Donovan, just to introduce the topic, so pretend for a second that you're just meeting me and I have no idea what diabetes is. I've never heard of it. Somehow just been living under a rock. Don't know what it is. How would you explain what diabetes is to me or to anyone?
Okay. Oh, okay. So it's like a diabetes elevator pitch almost.
Yes. Sure. Yeah. If you want to call it that.
Yeah. Okay. I have had to explain what diabetes is. I have type 1, by the way. There's 2 types.
Right.
That's important to know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not exactly educated in like all of the specifics of the differences between type 1 and type 2. I've never taken a class. I know that there are classes to like learn about that stuff.
Well, you can just present what you know personally,
Right. Yeah. But I'm just saying I don't really have like a scientific knowledge about it. I just have like my experiential knowledge
for sure,
of the condition.
Good to clarify.
And so basically what diabetes is it's where the cells in your body kind of reject the part of the pancreas that produces insulin. And what insulin does, for people who may not know, is it kind of is the counter to sugar. So when you eat like literally anything, I mean, some stuff has like not that much sugar, like a lot of vegetables don't have sugar, but when you eat stuff, your body breaks down that sugar and turns it into energy. But then you also need insulin to kind of like counteract all that sugar. And there are other ways to counteract the sugar, for example, exercise. But insulin is the main way that your body regulates your blood sugar, which is the amount of sugar in your blood. I think it's like milligrams per milliliter or something like that. I think that's how they measure it. But yeah, basically it's like they're like opposite. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people assume like, oh, well, you could just exercise and you'll be fine. But like, it's not. I always say to people like it's not that simple because there's a lot of factors that influence your blood sugar besides just food. I mean, I'm simplifying it into just food because that's the main factor that influences it. Mm-hmm. But it's also exercise and your mood. Even like if you're stressed out, like your body does things from that stress that will either make your blood sugar go up or down. It can be so many different factors. Like literally just me here talking is probably like using sugar, using that energy to make me talk. And so, the normal person's body, they produce insulin on their own because their pancreas still has that function. Mm-hmm. But mine, unfortunately, does not, because my body hates me and decided it hated me when I was 2 years old. It was like, hey, you're gonna die unless you take artificial insulin.
Right. So. Well, and luckily there is, ways to help you counteract the fact that that your body doesn't naturally produce insulin.
Yeah. For sure.
And I don't know if you just want to just discuss like how you deal with that and like what you've had to do.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that diabetics can deal with that. Mm-hmm. Can go about getting insulin into their body. Mm-hmm. It's all artificially made, by the way. Which is, I mean, I want to talk about this later, but like the price of insulin specifically is like through the roof. And so people have different ways of getting insulin. There are cheaper options and there are more expensive options. And I am fortunate enough to where I can benefit from some of the more expensive options because luckily my parents throughout my life have given me the honor of owning an insulin pump. Mm-hmm. And so this is how I get my insulin. And basically what it is a little box that has a cartridge and a tube that actually goes into my stomach. And it pumps artificial insulin into me, depending on, number one, what my blood sugar is at the moment, and number two, what I just ate. And I have to calculate the amount of carbohydrates from what I ate, and that will determine the amount of insulin that it gives me. Mm-hmm. So that's basically how it works. There are other options too. There's, a lot of people do insulin shots, where it's kind of the cheaper option. Hopefully our friend Tycho doesn't mind if I call him out. Oh, that's the other diabetic that That's right. It's Tycho. Tycho takes insulin shots in his arm. I'm pretty sure he does in his arm. But like basically after he eats, or if I think he I'll talk about this too. But I think he has this thing called a continuous glucose monitor. Mm-hmm. Which is basically a device that you put on your body that continuously monitors the amount of sugar or the amount of glucose in your blood. And it does that, at least the one I have, it tells me what my blood sugar is every 5 minutes. I think Tycho has that too. And so if his blood sugar is too high, he's going to want more insulin to counteract all that sugar in his
Right.
blood.
So it varies. Also, it's another thing. Like there's not
Yeah.
like we already discussed the fact that there is more than one type. Um, but
Mhm.
even within people that have, well, and I don't know. I mean, like off the top of my head, I don't know if Tycho has type 1 or type 2.
He has type 1.
Type 1, yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. But even within people that have the same type, like they can differ in how it affects them or what they do to help
Right.
themselves with that.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, also in just like the ways that diabetes affects them,
right.
like
Mm-hmm.
some people deal with it like a lot more rigidly. Some people are a little bit more lax about it, or like maybe they don't try to micromanage every little detail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think I think it depends on like the type of lifestyle you want to live with diabetes.
Right.
Like the more hands-on approach. Like if you're really worried about all the time, I don't know. I'm not able to speak from the point of view of somebody who takes a more laid-back approach,
Right. No, I get you.
which I am thankful for because I'm glad that I'm not like willy-nilly about it. But
No, it's a
some
serious
people are.
thing. You know what I mean? Like it's not anything to take lightly from how I understand it.
Yeah,
Um, and
for
so
sure.
um, like it's something that like you've had to deal with for most of your life. Almost your
Mhm.
entire life, right?
I mean, yeah, since I was 2, so that's
Yeah.
as long as I can remember.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't remember living without
You don't
diabetes,
remember.
which
There was a brief period of time when you did, but
there was. Yeah.
yeah, but that is lost time. Um, but I don't know if like you were you were 2 when you found out that you had it, or when I don't know if like everyone found out that you had it, like your whole family.
Yeah.
But like when you were at least like conscious enough to like understand what it was, like what was that like? Like what was your like reaction and kind of like how did you deal with that?
Yeah. Huh. Okay. I feel like I mean I've always been conscious of my diabetes when I was really young, like my parents would take care of it. Like
Right, that
they
makes
were the
sense.
ones who had to teach me how to take care of it, basically. So like I took up the responsibility of taking care of my own condition, obviously. But like I don't know. I don't know if there was ever a moment where you know I really like, or at least I can't remember a moment where I was just like, oh shit, I have diabetes. What the
So
fuck? Like
yeah.
the closest thing that I can think that's like close to that where I was like, wow, this is really serious. I mean, I've always known it was serious, but like, it's just a part of my life. Like I don't like I take it seriously, but it's just like it's just everyday shit for me. So it's not like I think about it that hard, but I think if I had to like choose a moment that's like closest to what you're describing, and this is kind of, I guess it's kind of dark, but I remember I was in like freshman year of high school or something, and I don't even remember like how I like got the idea to like look it up, but I started thinking about like, well, how does like the lifespan of like a diabetic compare to like a person without diabetes?
Mhm.
And I looked it up, and it I think I haven't looked it up in a while, but
It
I
was
think it's
shorter.
like it was
Like
shorter.
yeah. Mhm.
It was like multiple years shorter.
Mhm.
And I had like a realization where I was like, oh shit, I really have to
It's
take this seriously because like this could determine like literally the amount of years that I live.
yeah.
It's
And
kind of a scary thought
it
because it's
is,
like
yeah.
nobody wants to think about their own mortality, but
No, yeah. Well, and it's especially, I'm sure for you like it's troubling. It was troubling to, kind of discover that just because it's something that you can only control to a certain extent, right?
right.
Um and
Yeah.
thankfully you can like do things to help yourself, but it's like it's still, it's like a burden that it's just part of your life and like you like I
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, I
have to
try
come to
not to
terms
think
with
of
it.
it.
Hmm.
I try not to think of it that way, but it does feel like a burden, definitely
Well, yeah.
sometimes. Like there, there's a lot of frustration
Hmm.
that comes along with like, because like controlling your blood sugar is like, it can be such an unpredictable process. Like
Yeah.
it's not ever gonna go exactly the way you want it to go,
Hmm.
no matter how hard you try to fine tune it. And so it can be frustrating and can make you angry. And like there's times where you just want to be like, fuck this, I'm just not going to deal with it right now, and I'm just going to let
Hmm.
my body do what it's going to do.
Yeah.
Um,
No. Well, and I don't mean to say it's like a burden, like it's just completely ruins your life. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Because like,
No, I know.
yeah, no, because obviously, like, I've known you for a long time, and you know, I never like I've obviously seen how it's affected you, but
Mhm.
it's never from my perspective gotten to the point where it's prevented you entirely from just living your life like
Mhm.
as like,
Yeah.
normal as you can and as you want to. You know what I mean? Like you've still definitely been able to do what you want, and you just have it's just something that you have to handle sometimes.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
that's a code that I try to live by, and that my doctor encourages. Like diabetics can do all the same things that people without diabetes can do. It's
Hmm.
just a little harder sometimes. And like, yeah, I definitely understand like where, like why you said like it's like a burden because it
Yeah.
definitely is at
Well,
times.
cuz
But like,
and yeah.
it's also like a unique thing about myself that I feel like I can be proud of, because
Yeah,
it's something that I deal with and have to take responsibility for.
for sure, yeah.
And I think there's a certain pride in that. Like I have diabetes and I can do this,
Yeah.
even though it's hard
Well,
sometimes, even though you have your ups and downs.
yeah, well, and I think, from an outside perspective, it comes across like it's a huge burden just because whenever it comes up, it's like
Mm.
in the context of in a moment when it is a burden, when it's something that
When
you
it's
have to deal, when
inconvenient.
it's inconvenient, exactly.
Yeah.
But that really is just like a surface level impression of it at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot more
Yeah.
to it, and it does not define your life by any means.
Well,
Um,
I mean, you are right in that there are a lot more moments where it's an inconvenience than something to be proud of.
well, but like I said, it's from an outside
But yeah,
perspective. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it's from someone
yeah.
who doesn't have it, that is looking at someone else who does and seeing like how they're reacting, and like, oh, that doesn't seem like it's a positive experience all the time, but that's
Sure.
a very small portion of your entire life at the end of the day. Um, and I wanted to ask you, because at the end of the day, like it is something that you have to deal with that can sometimes be not it can be inconvenient, and it can kind of like it can affect your life sort of in a way that you might not want it to. So like what has been like your toughest experience that you've had to deal with regarding your diabetes, and how did you get through that? Because obviously you've gotten through it, but
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Uh, I think probably the process of taking full control and ownership over it is,
mm-hmm.
and that's like that's something that I'm still working on.
Mm-hmm.
Like my parents are pretty hands off at this point. They don't do much. I have to buy all my own supplies, and I take care of basically everything unless I ask for help. Unless I'm like, Mom, my blood sugar is low. I need you to like be checking my blood sugar for me because I can't do it for myself right now, or something like that. Like they're very hands off,
Mm-hmm.
and which is a good thing, because
Yeah.
I should, at the end of the day, it is my health condition and I have to take responsibility for it myself. But like
Well,
I
no,
remember having like multiple conversations with my parents over like elementary school and middle school and into high school and even into now, where you know they tell me like, you know, you have to take control of this part of it now.
Mm-hmm.
And more recently, it's been like the financial part where it's like, you know, they'll still help me out, of course, like if I had like issues paying for it, but they're like, you know, this is something you're gonna have to pay for your whole life. And so you kind of, unfortunately, you just have to get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that alongside taking control of like the lifestyle changes that I have to make as a diabetic,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like checking my own blood sugar, changing out my own insulin cartridge every 3 days, changing out my continuous glucose monitor every 10 days, stuff like that. And then also just like, I think something that a lot of people don't think about is that like it constantly has to be in the back of your head. Like you constantly have to be thinking about it in one way or another, because like you can't just ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise like things can go south really quickly. So, you know, like I'm sure you've seen me like check it while I've been out with you guys, but like I'll like check my phone really quickly just to make sure it's like on the right track.
Yeah.
But
like it's almost become like you've needed to make it like sort of second nature for yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's like a mindset thing. That's like habitual, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that takes time, and it's something that I've struggled with and I've talked to my doctor about, because unfortunately I am like a very forgetful person, and so I forget to do those things sometimes. But you know, I like really hammer it into myself to like make sure I'm on top of it.
Yeah, well, and I mean like obviously you're still here, so like you're figuring it out, you know what I mean? You've had some level of success, you know what I mean, to say the least.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure. So overall, like that's just been like that's been a transitional period for you, is like just making sure that you can handle it on your own and you don't necessarily have to rely on.
Yeah. And I think I'm coming out of that transitional period, like at this point in my life where like I feel confident handling it, and you know, I don't really have to worry about it unless I can't pay for my supply. But hopefully I never get to that point.
Yeah. And so that you said you mentioned earlier that is something that you wanted to bring up, is just like how much of a inconvenience, like the fact that it's not cheap to pay for insulin.
Well, I think this is probably one of the aspects of diabetes that I think about the most. It's honestly like more of a political issue,
right?
Unfortunately, than it is like a health related issue or like a life issue. But just like the cost of paying for diabetes supply, like it's ridiculous.
You've told me about it, like, and
I think I told you like some of the costs.
Only some of it. I'm sure. Like I haven't even heard the half of it, but it's brutal.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I have the privilege to own a continuous glucose monitor, which is very nice to have. It's like very new technology, like within the past 10 years that a lot of diabetics before me didn't have access to. But you know, like that, I don't think that means that like I don't take it for granted, obviously. Like I have to accept that, you know, it's something that I have a privilege to that like a lot of others don't, but I don't feel like that justifies the cost of it, because you know, like people who have diabetes, it's not like they asked to have it.
Yeah.
It's something that was put on them.
And now it's like so, on top of that.
Now it's like they just make it harder on you by making you pay for a ridiculous amount of money for all this new technology that like makes your life easier, but it's expensive.
Yeah. we could honestly fill a whole episode about thoughts about about stuff like that, man.
I could personally.
Yeah.
I this is gonna sound like maybe kind of funny, but I watched a TED talk one time that was like from the point of view of um of a diabetic who was my age at the time, and she was talking about like her struggles just purchasing insulin because she came from a poor family and her parents didn't really have the means to pay for the supplies, and so she struggled with paying for insulin. And she talked about like having to basically ration her insulin
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so so that it would last until she could buy more. And like that was like honestly a really emotional video for me to watch because I was like this stuff is real. Like this affects people in like
Mm-hmm.
real tangible ways.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like it so it's not like a small percentage of people that have it from my understanding, like that, like there's a good amount of people that have it, and obviously so many different people come from so many different backgrounds and
Yeah.
families and like levels of wealth, and it's like it can really affect, it can really be, you can struggle, like people struggle with it. um
Yeah. Bottom
and
line, I believe that diabetes is an indiscriminatory disease, and so I don't think that the way that we handle it in our healthcare system should be discriminate.
let this be a
But
message, you know what I mean?
this is a message. If you're listening, healthcare insurance companies,
Yeah, let this
heed my
be
word.
yeah,
Fuck you.
let this be a warning. We got our eye on you.
Me and Antonio are coming
We're
after you
coming for
personally.
you. Yeah. No, man. I mean, like we can only. I mean, like we can only hope that we only improve upon that aspect, like, and hopefully make things easier for future generations.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but we'll see. Like, only time will tell. But you know, I wanted to maybe because we've gotten to a point where we're a little in
Yeah,
heavy
no,
conversation right now, right?
we can step back
Yeah,
from
well,
the
I just wanted to, because I wanted to maybe, because obviously, like we've discussed, diabetes can be something that it's not always a positive aspect. Like it can be a burden, for lack of a better way to put it.
Mhm.
It can be a burden,
Mhm.
but I wanted to shed a little light about it and ask you a question that I don't know how easy this is going to be to answer. If you have had one, like what is like a positive experience that you've had as a result of the fact that you have diabetes? And this, I don't know, this might require a little bit of thought. Um,
Mhm.
and it might be a stretch, but I just thought, try to look at it in a more, like, I mean, you've already kind of talked a little bit about maybe some like aspects of it that you're proud of, right?
Mhm.
But like, is there a specific like thing that you've gone through that you might have not gone through if you didn't have diabetes, that you walked out of it like, oh, that was actually kind of cool, you know? Even if it was just like meeting
Yeah.
someone who also had it, or I don't want to speak for you, but
Yeah. That's it. I mean, I've already talked about like how, you can feel a sense of pride for taking ownership over your own health and
yeah,
stuff. And so
that
I
alone, I
definitely think
think.
that alone is something to be proud of.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, a lot of diabetics meet other diabetics just by way of having diabetes. Like they'll join like a diabetes club or something like that.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I've never really had an experience like that. That doesn't mean I don't want to. I mean,
right.
it'd be
It's
nice
just
to know other diabetics, and I know a few, the typo being one of them.
mm-hmm.
Um, and that's always cool because it immediately feels like we share the same, for lack of a better term, like you said, burden
Or struggle,
and
right? Or experience,
struggle.
experience,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
where like there's an immediate like connection there, you know,
Yeah.
which I think it's always really cool when I meet somebody else who has diabetes, because it just feels, it's like, you know, you're not in this alone,
Yeah, it
you know.
reminds you, like, you know, yeah, you're not alone. There's other people that share your struggle, and you can help each other out,
Mm,
or, you know,
for sure.
because I remember even like when you found out that Tycho had it, like you wanted to talk to him about like his
Oh my god,
experience.
I remember that phone call.
Yeah, we don't need to for confidential reasons. We don't need to go into
Yeah,
details about the phone call, but like I remember specifically
yeah,
you were you wanted to talk to him, and so
I did.
I thought that that was just, you know, it's neat that you were able to connect with him like instantly about that sort of aspect. You know what I mean?
Mm,
That
yeah,
not everyone would be able to.
yeah,
But yeah, and you know, like we've been discussing, like it's not easy, but it does show like a level of strength that you have. You know what I mean? And
mm,
I think it actually
yeah. Thank
is.
you.
Yeah, and it can be, and I well, yeah, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of people when I say like I think it's admirable when you really look at it and like you see like what people with diabetes, you know, they what they have to deal with on a day to day basis, and
Mm,
in comparison to people that don't have it, like it takes willpower. It takes willpower. It takes strength. It takes persistence. You know what I mean? It takes
yeah,
motivation. So I think that
yeah,
it definitely is like I see that positive in it. You know what I mean?
mm, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, there's a lot of other diseases out there, um, where people go through the same, maybe not exactly the same struggle, but you know, they carry the same emotional baggage
Mm-hmm.
over their condition, and um, it's always cool to connect with somebody who like shares that same baggage, I guess. Um, yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. Um, I don't know if, and so we're gonna wrap things up here, just because I think that we've we've come to a logical conclusion. But I wanted to just ask really quick, like if you have any specific stories or experiences that you wanted to talk about or discuss before we wrap things up.
Man, I'm trying to think.
Because otherwise,
There's like stories that I find funny,
right?
um,
But it's like
like in hindsight, but like they don't sound funny.
right. Mm-hmm.
And they mostly have to do with like having a low blood sugar.
Well, and
I guess.
as
I
someone who,
guess.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, you know, as someone who does like to, you know, like I when I'm in a tough scenario, I like to try to see positive aspects or aspects of scenarios that I can sort of look at and maybe laugh. Right. I admire that you're able to look at some of your, you know, like struggles in life, and you've been able to laugh at them or look at them in a more of a lighthearted way, because that's not always
Yeah,
easy for people. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, you definitely have to take like a more lighthearted approach sometimes, because
mm-hmm.
it's
you,
you can't let it be all doom and gloom all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, no, you got to
That
take
goes
it
with a lot of
seriously,
things in
but
life.
don't let it just keep you down. You know, at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can tell that you like, regardless if it works for everyone, you know ways for yourself to cope with it and still go about your life. You know what I mean? So I think that that's good.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I did have one more question before we finish things off here.
Mhm.
Let's say let's like imagine this scenario: someone that you really care about just got diagnosed with diabetes. What advice would you give them on how to handle that? Like
Mm.
overall.
Yeah, that's another great question. I think the advice that I would give them is basically just to it sounds like kind of basic, but like just hang in there. Like you're gonna have your ups and your downs, and there's gonna be times where you're like, hell yeah, my blood sugar is good. It's been good all day, and I feel great. And there's gonna be days where you're just like, I hate this, and I wish that I never had to deal with this. I wish I was never diagnosed with diabetes, and you just gotta hang in there. You just gotta take it in stride, because at the end of the day, that's part of your life. It's a responsibility. You can call it a burden. You can call it whatever you want, but
it's part of your life, but it does not control your life.
It does not control your life. That is true.
Yes.
Heart attack. Hi, Keaton.
And then we got a Keaton cameo in there. All right.
To wrap it off.
Yeah, to wrap things off. All right. Well, I think that's going to conclude this episode. So, Donavan, thank you again so much for doing this, and just talking about it and discussing it and discussing your experiences. It was great to hear.
Yeah, it was. Thank you for giving me that platform.
Yeah, no,
it was great. I always appreciate the opportunity to talk about it and educate other people with this. If you feel educated, then drop a like on this video or stream it again on Chit Chat, or on Spotify.
Yeah, or tell your friends. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of how educational this is, I think it's just good to hear people's perspective. You know what I mean? I think it definitely like it could resonate with people. You never know. And so I hope that someone watching out there, if you have diabetes or someone does, I hope this could potentially be something positive to look at or to listen to or anything like that. But anyway, regardless of that, that's going to end off this episode of Chit Chat. So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys in the next episode of Chit Chats. Peace out. And we'll do maybe not first, but standing up Chit Chat stance. It's definitely one of the first.
Oh, you're standing up.
I'm standing up.
Show the audience your mic really quick before you go.
Check out my cool mic. I probably showed it in the previous episode, but there you go. All right, see ya.